we are on today with the nothing short of incredible Tina Forsyth. And Tina is going to give you a little bit of an intro in a moment about all of the brilliance that she brings to the world in the form of certifications. And I have had the privilege and the honor of knowing Tina for just shy of a year, and I've been absolutely blown away by the depth of knowledge that she has about her industry. I've also really enjoyed all of the conversations that we have had where we have been able to completely geek out on
Yes.
all things assessment, all things certifications. Not
Yeah.
maybe most people's kind of normal conversation, but we're happy, so let us be. And I'm really, really excited today because we are going to be talking about the 7 places that you can use diagnostic assessments within your certification program. And we're going to be coming at this from all different angles. So a little bit like me, I do recommend, I'm a remarkable person. Use my
Have some notes. Take some
but
notes.
I have so if you see me looking down and scribbling furiously, I am hosting this live stream, but I am also here to learn because Tina's brain is absolutely incredible. So Tina, welcome. Just tell everyone a little bit about yourself, who you serve, and a little glimmer, especially from my audience, into that certification market.
Yeah, so I kind of do 2 different things, one of which led to the other. I actually founded my own certification back in 2009, which is the Certified Online Business Manager training. And that, of course, continues to run to this very day. It was through that journey of creating my own certification that really led me into the work I do now, which is helping other founders and experts create, launch, and develop their own certification and licensing programs. And I really love the model for various reasons. First and foremost, I really think it's one of the most beautiful ways to honor when we've created something in the world that we know works. Right? Like we've created, whether we call it IP, I mean, we always talk about, hey, IP, you might not call it that, but it's your methodology, your way of doing things, your methods, your systems, your process, your flow. When we've worked hard to create something that works, we've delivered it to clients, we've experienced the transformation. I like to look through this lens of, is it meant to be out in the world above and beyond just me? That was that was my own personal journey too, even years ago when I was creating my own certification was, hey, I'm out here doing what I do, working as an online business manager. That was a phrase that I coined back in 2002 when I didn't know what else to call myself. And people were like, I want to do what you do, Tina, or I want to hire somebody who does.
Yes. So can you teach me how to become?
Yeah. And can you teach me how to do it? And it was like, oh, hey, I can keep doing what I'm doing, working with my clients kind of one off at that time, or like what difference and what impact can this make out in the world? So that's part of what I love about the model. It's very much an impact driven model, but impact through, I know this is where you and I geek out, right? It's like impact through like solid, proven ways.
Systems and infrastructure. Yes, how can we bring our IP? And instead, like even one of the things that I observe with the thought leaders that I work with is that they have such incredible IP, but it requires them to be present, them to be on the stage, them to be on the podcast, them to actually have the conversation and almost re-explain themselves until they're blue in the face. And almost like, even just as you're saying this certification model allows those people who have, and the key word here is proven process. So a system that actually freaking works, and then have people who are trained and certified in your method bring your brilliance to the masses across the globe.
Yeah. And I always like to say too, with all the love in my heart, like I've worked in the online space since 1999. I've kind of done every iteration of different things. And what we talk about so much too, and especially in the online space, is the idea of like the one-to-many model, right? Like how can I show up and deliver to many? But the downside of that model is it's still on my shoulders. to deliver, to show up and
Yep.
deliver, like you were saying.
The
So
old group
I
coaching
might
model, yeah.
yeah, it's like I might have a great coaching program, or I might be running trainings, or I might be doing all kinds of amazing things. And even if and where we have, say, like associate coaches or other people to help deliver, that's fine. But a lot of times it still lands on us. Whereas I like this concept. This is, I know, part of where you and I really connect, right?
Yeah.
It's like, let your IP do the work,
Do
let your IP do the heavy lifting,
yeah.
let it take on a life of its own, even in so many ways. And of course, certification, assessment, there's other ways that can happen too. But where Maeve and I meet so well, kind of this beautiful overlap of like
Yeah.
certification
The
and
most perfect
assessment.
Venn diagram in the world.
Yeah, it's like let our IP do the work for us. Let
Yeah.
it take over the heavy lifting and let it go be what it wants to be
Mm-hmm.
in the world. I mean, through my certification, we're at the point here now where online business manager in the online space is a pretty, it's a known
Mm-hmm.
phrase. It's a
Yeah.
kind of commonly accepted
Yeah.
role on the team of growing businesses in the online space. And that probably wouldn't have happened if I hadn't started a certification back in
Yes,
2009,
yes, okay.
right? Like, and who's to
That
say?
flywheel
But
effect that it just rolls out and rolls out. And
yep,
then
took on
one
a
thing,
life of its own.
yeah, exactly. It's just like arms and legs. And I think the interesting thing from my perspective observing you is that you have this beautiful income stream coming into your life, and you
Yeah.
don't actually have to do a whole lot in relation to that entire part of your company. Is that
Yes.
fair to say?
Yeah. And and this was a bit of a development over time,
Mhm.
especially back in 2018
Mhm.
when I brought on licensed trainers. So up to that point, developed the certification, I led the training, et cetera. That was great. We have an association and there's, recurring revenue and various things that come into play. And then in 2018, I had a few folks in my community be like, "Hey, Tina, can I teach this program for you?" And I
Yes.
was like,
Brilliant. So it's
yeah,
like
because
train the
I'm,
trainer, and then the trainers train the trainers, and on it goes.
yeah. So my licensed trainers are the ones, they market the program, they fill their programs, they deliver it. People come to us still to get certified through the association, et cetera. But it really allowed me to be in like what I call kind of a semi-retired
Yeah.
state for a
Yeah.
number of years. Cause I would still work a handful of hours, give or take,
Mhm.
on that side of the business. But it did not require me to be there at
Yeah, it's
all,
just you
really,
were
to
like
run.
almost like sticking your fingers back in, even though it was running like this beautifully oiled machine by itself.
Yeah, just doing the things I like to do and some of
Yeah,
the stuff I want to be involved in, but it doesn't require me to be there. And again, that's all it's based on the model, but it's also based on the IP. It's
yes,
based on the
absolutely.
IP that we've created. And so that also led to the work I do now, in particular through my Ready Set Certify program and, some of the consulting work I do where it's like, oh, hey, I get to help other people create
Yes, yeah,
certifications now too.
yeah. Okay,
'Cause,
so that's just actually a beautiful segue into the piece I wanted to talk about next, and
yeah,
I think both you and I need to talk about this so that those who are watching either live or on the replay, and if you
yeah,
are, just drop a comment there. Hey, Jewel, I'm just pulling up the chat here, so we can see. Hey, Jewel, good to see you. So. If you have any questions as we're going through, I'm sure I'm going to have plenty for Tina. Just pop them into the chat and we will do our best to answer your questions. And if you're watching on the replay, just comment underneath and we will,
yes,
as long as you tag us, we should hopefully, if the gods of the internet play fair, we will get those notifications.
yeah,
But right, so how do we know? And we're going to get into the 7 different places that you can use diagnostic assessments inside of your certification, or sorry,
yes,
as a wrap around your certification. But so we'll get into all of that detail then. But I would love beforehand, how do we know you are actually ready for a certification? Because a certification is not for somebody who's like trying to figure out their niche, not to
no,
get their
no,
like a proof of concept of their offer converting for the very first time. A certification is actually a pretty advanced stage of business. So I would just love myself
yeah.
included, all of us to get really crystal clear on when do we know we are bang on ready for a certification.
Yeah, there's a couple of requirements, first and foremost, that are essential
Mm-hmm.
to be ready for a certification. And that is number one, you've created your own proprietary stuff,
Yeah,
right?
you have your own IP. Yeah.
Your own IP. So,
Okay.
and it's yours and you've made it and all of that. There's that. The second one, and not everybody agrees with me on this, but I take a pretty firm stance on it, is you have proven that IP for at least a period of 3 years. So
Yeah.
I've had people come and say to me, like, oh my gosh, Tina, I just came up with this great thing. I want to turn it into a certification.
Yeah.
And my first question is always, great. How long have you been using it? How long have you been implementing it? Have you
6
used it with
months.
clients in your work or whatever? And if they're saying, no, I haven't yet, it's
Yes.
like, okay, that's your next step.
Yes.
Like go out and prove that it works, because the ultimate heart of a good certification is that what you're certifying people in is actually proven.
Yeah.
It works. It's
Love
already
that.
been
I think
validated.
this is a nuance that I would love to just to kind of make a note on, and then we'll keep moving. Is, and we were talking about this just prior to going live, is
Yeah.
the ethics in the certification industry, because there are some big name certifications where
Yeah.
we hear, just from your chatting to people, and we all kind of know each other, and it's this little, corner of the internet, we're in this little bubble. And
Yeah.
you hear people who've been through certifications, and in the sales process, it was made out as though it was a very serious certification and you had to like jump all of these hurdles to get certified. But basically, once you handed over your dollars, that was it. And I think that's
Oh,
one of the
yes.
things that I love about what you do, Tina, is that, 3 years proving your process, that's a lot of
Yes.
years in this online world. The
Oh,
only
yeah.
people who are going to get through to that are those who actually stick in the game. And my highest value is continuous improvement. And for me, it's like if you've delivered your thing for 3 years, you're going to have gone through continuous improvement and continuous improvement and continuous improvement,
Yeah.
getting it to the stage where this thing just rolls, it just flies along. So I absolutely love that.
Well, yeah. I mean, because any of us too, I'm sure, some of us, myself included, have participated in and been certified in programs. It's like, do you want to be certified in something that hasn't been proven yet? Like, no.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the experiment in this.
Yeah.
And I was talking when I was speaking with somebody just a couple of days ago. They were reaching out about, hey, we're at the stage where I think we really want to develop this into a certification. They've been doing what they're doing for 15 years now.
Yes.
Like that's just like the depth of knowledge and wisdom
Experience. Yeah. This is not
and
somebody who,
structure.
yeah, somebody who bought a program and then changed the words and pretended it's their
Yeah.
own program and selling it on the internet tomorrow.
Yes. And you will see.
This is not for you.
Oh, no, it's totally not for you. And again, with all the love in my heart, it's not for you yet. Put it that way. Like, do the work, prove the model, then you'll be ready. And I mean, I can attest to that. I've been working online now since, I don't know, 26 years almost. That's crazy. Like, time flies. 3 years right now might seem like a long ways away,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
actually
it
not.
does. Yeah, actually, that's
Not far
right.
away.
It does go
Yeah.
quickly.
And some people will. Certification is right now, just in the past, probably, year and a half-ish, give or take. It's been another one of those like, ooh, people are like, let's create certifications. And it's a little bit of a buzzwordy thing.
Yeah,
And
it's almost
there's
shiny
people
and
doing
sexy.
it. Yeah. But no, really, there's an integrity aspect to that. Like
Love
be in the right place for it, for sure. And also to your point, Maeve, about there's certifications out there, you want to be ready on the front end for it, but you also need to be ready to deliver it properly on the back
yeah,
end.
you actually have to fulfill it. Again, certifications, it's not like a 2K thing. This is pretty high ticket. So you want to make sure that you actually can fulfill on everything once all of these clients come into you. And I think then the other piece, say, one of the things we were going to explain is how do you know you're ready for a diagnostic assessment? And what I said to Tina before the call is basically, we got to know the pain points of our market. We got to have an offer to make. Okay. So we don't just generate leads for the sake of it. We want to be making offers because we are in business. So we got to have an offer to sell. But I think then the third factor is having a process that you bring your people through. The requirement for certification level, they already have that. Okay. So even if they don't, maybe if it doesn't have a shiny name yet, it doesn't matter. Even if they don't call it a framework or a methodology, basically, if you have a process that you bring your people through to get them said result, that is what is required to be able to build the marketing angle of these diagnostic assessments.
Oh,
Yeah. So
yeah, definitely. I know that's part of, so it's interesting. I feel like this is a cool kind of aspect, especially with the overlap of the two of us and what we do is because I always like to say that when it comes to a certification, the people you're certifying, their success is your success.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we can have the check proprietary, it's mine, and 3 years experience at least. That's great. But when you're actually delivering this certification, I mean, that's part of what I do with my clients at large. I have a whole 9-step framework we work through, but their success is your success. So if people are coming out of the other end of your certification and they're not able to be successful, that's a problem.
That's a
right.
problem.
That's a big problem. And that to me too is when we were initially kind of geeking out on this. It's like, ooh, that's where assessment.
So that's a big piece. So I
really
kept it for the seventh one on the list, okay? Because it's like I've kept the shiniest one for last. But what I want to do now then is we're going to talk you guys through the 7 places you can use these diagnostic assessments inside of your company, okay, when you're moving into the certification chapter. And you know, we're just like I've got like a whole there's so much that we want to cover. I'm going to be glancing over here to make sure that I don't miss a thing. But the very first kind of section that I want to go through, and this isn't specifically only for certification, but a diagnostic assessment is the most powerful tool to bring really hyper qualified leads into your business. And if you're not sure what a diagnostic assessment even means, if you have ever been through, it's basically a very advanced quiz funnel. Okay, so sometimes a quiz funnel gets a bad rap. It's like a 1-question diagnostic. It's just more like a bit of fun, something you did in like a teenage magazine type thing, or what sort of Disney princess are you? These diagnostic assessments are much more for the thought leader. So as Tina said, they have this really deep IP. And if you think about, a couple of examples, there are personality types. So we have the unicorn leadership type assessment. We have, from a personality side of things, we've got Myers-Briggs or Enneagram, or we have Sally Hogshead's Fascinate, okay? So we have all of these different diagnostic assessments. And the whole idea is that these are a lead magnet like no other. And the reason why is that anybody has like opted in for a PDF lead magnet, especially now with autofill fields and all of the things, and we hit the button, it goes to our spam folder. We don't even open up the spam folder to find it, never mind open the PDF, never mind read the dang thing. And then this person emails us out of the blue in 6 months' time, and we're like, I didn't opt into their list. And you delete it because you don't actually value what you're getting, because it's just spray and pray marketing, one size fits all. Everybody gets the same thing, and we want to be really, really tuned into the power of the diagnostic, because whenever somebody spends 5, 10, sometimes even 15 minutes going through your diagnostic assessment, they are very bought into your process. There's a lot of know, like, and trust there. And because all of your results pages, all of the reports that they get sent are personalized to them, it's got a very bespoke kind of white glove experience for the person going through it. Okay. And that kind of personalization, that level of know, like, and trust getting built in the first instance is the best way for you to actually get those people into your certification in the first place. Because every certification, and Tina, you can jump in here and correct me, but every certification needs students. Yeah.
Yeah. And along those lines, too, one of the things I talk about when I work with folks on certification, one of the very first things we talk about is the who. Because I really look through the lens of, with certification, there's no such thing as, you want to be extra picky on who's a fit for your program, right? You want to be, there's something about them that's going on that's going to make them a good fit versus not. And through the lens of a diagnostic assessment too, it really allows us to hone in on like, okay, yes, this person is a fit for this. I like to say, even in the certification world, like, just because they want it doesn't mean they get it, but yet if you have a bunch of people jumping up saying, yeah, I want to be certified, let me in. but they're actually not a fit for
Yeah.
it, because that's one of the areas that a certification will break down if you're certifying the wrong people.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, it could
So
cause your certification to crash and
it
burn.
can totally cause it to crash and
Yeah,
burn. It may not, you may be doing every other thing right, but if a person, the who that
yeah.
you let in the front
Yes,
door was not a fit.
if your water in the pipes is the wrong water or dirty
Yep.
water, the whole thing is going to fall over anyway. I
So
think that leads beautifully into the next piece. That this is something that we've been working on a lot this year for all of our clients,
mhm,
and this is categorization of leads. Okay, so obviously everybody goes through your diagnostic assessment. They get their own result. So let's call our results A, B, C, D, just for
yeah,
ease of conversation. So they get result A, result B, result C, result D. They obviously then go down personalized follow-up nurture sequences based on what the result they got was, okay, which is amazing from a data and insights point of view for you as the business owner. But what's actually really important for you as a business owner is to be able to categorize those leads, because not all leads were created equal. And just because somebody got result B doesn't mean that they are the right fit for it, that they have been doing it for long enough, that it's actually a proven methodology, and also that they actually have the funds to invest in themselves to do said certification. Okay,
yeah,
so part
yeah.
of it doesn't impact the result that the assessment taker gets, but basically, what's going to happen is you, as a business owner, can create your own criteria for what we call them tier one, tier two, tier three leads. And then basically all of those, like in our company, for example, they all get passed to our Asana board. Our sales team are then speaking to all of the tier one leads first, and then the tier two leads second, etc., etc. And you
Yeah.
can build all of those automations to really segment your list, not only from a results point of view, but also this kind of tiered and the segmentation of quality as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even from that, like that nurturing aspect too, again, because if somebody is, hey, I haven't been doing this yet for the 3-year minimum,
Mhm.
like that doesn't have to mean, like in my sense with the certification, it doesn't have to mean like, okay, bye, see you in 3 years. It's like there could
It might
be
be at
people.
2 years, 10 months. So
Yeah.
it's like, yes, you can build
Yep.
those
There's
as you go.
such
Yes.
Yeah, it's so great. I love that that's one of the things I love too about a diagnostic assessment. It's just like the ability to be able to do so much
Yeah, and the
without
ability
back
to kind of
end.
really, really hyper segment your list as well.
Yeah.
It honestly like pains me sometimes when I see people and they have opt-ins and they email their entire list the same message every single
Yeah.
time. And it's like you have so much nuance, even within a list of people who have joined for, like, let's pretend your entire list are certification types in your old business or in your other business, sorry, and they're all OBM types. But we're
Yeah.
not just literally saying, right, there's 10,000 people, let's send all the same message and hope to goodness something sticks. What we have on the front end of our business is them telling us exactly what they want to hear, exactly what they need, exactly the subjects that they're
Yeah.
struggling with. And we're then able to hyper segment the messages that we are actually sending to our people. And this is how then, even if you have a relatively small list, you can be getting really, really, really good traction, clicking by even high ticket sales from
Yeah.
your list, because we're talking about the right things to the right people.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the right
So
time.
do you feel like we've covered everything from the attraction piece, like kind of that lead gen piece, and then we can move on to
I
enroll? Or sorry.
Yeah, I think so. Because I mean, to me, it's also just the idea of like there's such simplicity in this, like with all the various ways and things we can be doing for like bringing leads in and making those initial connections. Like there's just such simplicity and beauty in the assessment
Beautiful,
approach.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So the next piece then to move into the second place to use these diagnostic assessments inside of your certification business is where we basically use it as a sales enhancement process. And
Mhm.
basically, if you think about it on the back end of what you get as the business owner, whenever we have a sales conversation booked in with either me or a member of my team, we are able to pull up all of the information that this person gave to us. Okay, they have willingly told us, they've answered our diagnostic is like 40 questions long. They've literally spent the time telling us their greatest struggles. They've filled out an application giving us absolutely glorious amount of data about what they're actually struggling with. And
Yeah.
that snapshot, so you're able to pull it up on this beautiful color dashboard and all of the things, and really get an insight into the lead who is coming to you as the certification owner wanting to be certified. And you can use that, or your team of closers or whatever you have in place can use all of that information alongside their application data and information to have a very, very refined sales conversation, very straight to the point, because
Yeah.
you don't have to spend 15 minutes. Tell me what your greatest struggle is. You don't have to do those
Yes.
ordinary sales calls, tactics, and process, because you have everything already at your fingertips, and you can really. This is why, I'm not a brilliant salesperson, but our sales conversion rate is incredibly high because I only talk about the things that they're struggling with because
Yeah.
they just told
Yeah.
me what they are. So very, very, very simple.
Yeah. I really love that. Like just from a application slash whatever, getting to know them perspective.
Yes,
Absolutely
absolutely. And
essential.
the final piece in the sales chapter, so kind of part two of this final piece is objection handling. And anybody
Mm,
who's been in sales for long enough, which all, your certification people will be at that stage of business, being able to handle objections well is critically important. Okay.
yeah.
And when you already know the struggles of your lead, the desires of your lead, you can then you're kind of pre-equipped to be able to handle the objections that your people are going to give you. And what you can do over time, again with the joy of AI and the amazing ability that it gives all of us, we are able to now kind of dissect sales conversations, see where the objections
Yeah.
were, do correlations, do data analysis between the data and insights that we get from the diagnostic and then the objections that were received on the sales conversation, and then almost kind of start creating these banks of responses to handle objections on the fly. Because whenever we have person type A that comes in based on their diagnostic,
Mhm.
ordinarily they're worried about ABC. So our sales team then can be trained in how to handle that really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Cool.
Love it. Love it.
Right. So, with our leads coming into your business, they are hyper qualified, hyper segmented because of your diagnostic assessment. Okay.
One other thing I want to jump in here too with this, Maeve, from the perspective of a certification program, is a lot of times when folks are launching a certification, especially if they're in the place, and this is one of the signs you might be ready for a certification too. Like if you have people around you who are like, "Hey, I want to be certified in what you do. Have you ever thought of this? I would love to do this." A lot of times the first maybe one or two times we offer a certification program, it might be that real like warm list of people, who are existing clients or already in our network or whatever it is. But there comes a point in time where that's not going to be the case
Yep.
anymore. And what you're talking about as well is just this whole flow overall. It's really like, oh, let's be really purposeful and strategic for being ready for that moment where it's like, oh, okay, I can't just rely on these warm leads.
You can do maybe your like soft launch to your super hot list, but at some point then, especially if you want to have kind of true global impact,
Yes.
you're only exhaust the 24 people that know that we're going to like snap up this opportunity. If you want to
Yes.
get to the stage where you're training 100 and then 200 and then 2,000 and then 4,000 and then 50,000 people,
Yeah.
then this is where the scale, and this is like my biggest thing is this is scalable infrastructure for true thought leaders where can put hundreds and hundreds of thousands of leads through this, and from a paid traffic perspective, super low cost per lead, hyper qualification of that lead,
Mhm.
obviously there's going to be some people that come through that aren't a good fit, but the tiered categorization allows you to separate the wheat from the chaff. Okay.
Yeah.
And then whenever you move on, then, so we've covered leads, we've covered sales. The next piece then where you can use diagnostics in your certification program is in the onboarding process. And normally, if you think about it, what does onboarding normally entail? Welcome email, and here's your, your link to your calendar, and here's a link to a Facebook group, and that's basically it. Imagine the power of having a diagnostic assessment in your onboarding process, okay, that allows people to know where they stand on day zero. Okay,
Yeah.
they are literally, they've just stepped over the line, they've invested in themselves, they believe in you so thoroughly as the certification owner, and they want to know, like, where am I? And I think that's part of diagnostics in these assessments, in any of these, even like personality assessments. Knowing yourself is one of the biggest advantages of them, because people are self-obsessed. People want to know how they are getting on. How do they match up? I'm in
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs. I'm an INTJ. If I'm chatting to somebody else as an INTJ, I automatically feel this, like, oh, we're in this little club together. Or unicorn team, it's like, I'm an MS. Right? Oh, you're an MS too. Or you're a VM. And people, you start to have an identity attached to what you are. And this day zero onboarding diagnostic allows your person to see where they stand at the very start of your certification. And later on, I think it's in part 6, we're going to show you how to close the loop on that, which
Yeah.
allows your person to see how unbelievably far they have come. But then this is where it gets, in my weird opinion, it gets very shiny, very sexy. When you have, and this is true even outside of certification, but when you have an onboarding diagnostic, you can actually then provide personalized roadmaps for your people to go through the certification program, because you know exactly, because not all leads are
Yeah.
created equal, not all people are created equal, and some people might need a little bit more help with a certain area than other people, and
Mhm.
that baseline assessment is really, really, really going to help to onboard people and have it be such a different experience to anything they've ever experienced before.
Yeah, one of the ways this, just as an example too, like in our online business manager certification, we
Mhm.
have two types of people that will come into that program. Two main differences. There's certain things that are criteria regardless, but two of the main differences are they're coming straight out of corporate into the OBM training.
Yeah.
So they get and understand a lot of various operation and whatever type things, but the online world and or being in business for themselves is pretty new. The
Yeah.
other people we have coming into the program are they've already been working online as a service provider, maybe doing marketing or VA or whatever it is in some way. So they get and understand the online world and
Yeah.
they've been in business for themselves, but
Mm.
they haven't necessarily, the journey for them is different, right? And that's such a great example, I think, from a diagnostic perspective too. It's like it occurs to me, it's like, okay, you're laying out the journey for them in a way for them to be able to see, oh, here's what the journey is going to look like. You're not quite there yet.
I
But
know.
I love that piece you said about being able to personalize it too. Like we talk about that a lot with our trainers and the way we approach certification, because it's like, hey, if they're coming out of corporate, they need help with different things.
With different things, like, how does the internet work, or like, I remember when I was in corporate before, and like we now build funnels for a living. It's like what our company does. I'd never heard of a funnel in my life. Okay, and
Yeah.
I was,
Or just like, how do I have a sales
yeah,
conversation? Like if they're coming out of corporate, that doesn't mean they may or may not have done some of
absolutely.
that before. So it's really cool way to get to know.
So
There's
it's
still that
all,
important criteria of like who they are and what needs to be in place, but each person is still going to be
I
a
love
little
that. So it's
different.
like it's almost like a personalized roadmap, and like, to me, what's coming up to me
Yeah.
is, and I know
Yeah.
there's a few huge, like, big name, like I'm pretty sure Takimura does this inside of his program, where people
Mm.
go on certain tracks and they work in, like, I think it is 60-day sprints, and then you
Yeah.
do another assessment, and then they put you onto the next track. But it's almost like, you know. Which track is right for you, and you do that in your onboarding, and then it puts you down a certain chute, inside of the
Yeah.
business to go through that certification program. And almost then what I'm seeing as well, and I'm probably jumping ahead of myself here in terms of the next piece, but almost what I can see then are these assessments at different checkpoints as you
Yeah.
go through the curriculum, where
Yeah.
then it's like, what's the next track for me? And what's the next track for me? And what's the next track for me? But because it's infrastructure and a system and automations that is doing all of this, we're not relying on people filling out like a checkbox in a paper form or submitting a Google form or something awful like that. This is
Yeah.
all part of the automated infrastructure of the business. So I absolutely love that. The next then and fourth big category that we want to talk about is the actual training piece. So
Mhm.
people often in businesses like they focus on leads and focus on sales, but there's a lot of meat in the actual getting people through the certification program. Okay,
Totally.
and then we have these not only kind of which track is what track is next for you assessments, but we almost have a checkpoint assessment based on I hate the word exam, but it's almost more like a test to see, are
Mhm.
they getting the module that they've just been through? Are they passing the lesson that they've just been through?
Yeah.
And using almost these like miniature assessments to make sure the caliber of the people going through is maintained. And again, back to integrity, the caliber is maintained throughout the certification. So it's not a matter of like, let's pretend it's a 6 month certification. They get to the end of 6 months and then they flop and they fail miserably. We have all of these
Yeah.
miniature assessments at every stage of the process.
Well, and even alongside that, one of the things that really comes up in certification. So, one of the things that's different with certification compared to kind of quote unquote regular trainings,
Yes. Uh-huh.
people are much more motivated to complete a certification. Like, I don't know the stats offhand,
Ooh. Right.
but
Talk me through the psychology of that. That's
well,
interesting.
when you're coming into certification, like when I want to become certified in something, it's because I know I'm going to take and use it on the back end in
Yeah.
some way. And again, it has to be set up structured and all kinds of things need to be true. But for example, with our OBM certification training, like I want to say the completion rate is at least 95%. Like it's pretty rare
It's the
that
opposite of the course industry then.
it's the opposite of the course industry. And so when people are coming in for, and they're coming in because I like to say certification can also be an identity
Mm.
sale, like not, oh, I'm going to learn how to do some,
Because
Instagram reels. It's like,
yeah,
no,
that's,
I'm going to become a
yes.
certified OBM.
But then
So
let me challenge you in this for just a moment.
yeah,
So the point there that I was like, is they're going to use the certification on the back end,
yeah.
but technically the same is true when people go through a program. They
Well,
should want
it's,
to use it on the back end. So there must be more
but
to
there, that's the identity piece in
that's
my experience is like, I'm doing this because I want to become certified. I want to put myself out in the world as this.
this
I
one.
mean, the number one thing I used to get, and I didn't share this earlier, but even before I started my certification, like I wrote my OBM book back in the day. I wrote a book. This is a 10th anniversary edition. We're coming up on needing a 20th anniversary edition. But I wrote this book thinking, okay, read the book, go become an OBM. And people would, and then they were like, we want more. That's what turned into the certification program. But one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we would get then, and to this day, it's still true. It's like, oh, now I know what to call myself. Now I know what I am.
Yes,
So
it's the label
when
and the identity.
yeah, there's an identity piece to it. So when that's true, that definitely lends itself to, higher completion rates. But even alongside that, when you're talking about these like checkpoints and such, for sure, one of the things that's really important in certification is how confident and ready do they feel? Because we can check knowledge, we can touch on knowledge points, right? Like we could test do they
Yeah,
know this or that? There's that part of it.
yeah.
But the most important thing in certification is, do they feel ready coming out the other end to go do and deliver and be whatever it is they've taught to be? Because if they don't feel that,
Yeah.
that's going to be a problem. We had that come up about 4-ish years ago. We had a situation where there was a number of people who weren't feeling satisfied and ultimately weren't feeling ready. They
Okay.
were coming out of the program and they were feeling like, I'm not ready to do this. Like, I don't feel qualified. I don't feel confident, which is very important for an OBM.
Mhm.
But, and it was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, it doesn't matter how great the training is and
Yeah.
all this stuff
Yeah.
and how much
It's
they
almost like
know.
anything in business, there's a mindset piece to it as well.
Yeah, how much they know. But if they're not feeling ready, that's one of the most important questions we ask in our feedback when we follow
Mhm.
that through is like, kind of how ready do you feel to go out and operate this way in
Yeah.
the world? And I love that even from a checkpoint perspective, like based on each stage or each module or whatever, to
Yeah.
be able to kind of tap into that, like, how are you feeling about this? How
Mhm.
ready and confident do you feel?
Yeah,
With
so there's almost an extra layer there that we want to add in, as well as the
yeah,
data and insights that I'm going to speak about next. But we almost have that opportunity to course correct as well.
exactly.
When somebody flags at the end of module two, for example, that they
Yeah.
don't feel confident, you as a certification owner can actually course correct then, rather than waiting
Yeah.
until them being offboarded and they tell you they've been miserable for the last 4 months. Like there's nothing worse.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
they're at the end and then they're whatever and
Yes.
all of that. Yeah. Because even just that idea of, like you were saying, throughout being
Yes.
really purposeful to like assess and
Yeah.
stay on top of these things is really important.
Brilliant, brilliant. And then the last piece then of the train chapter, okay, so in the actual training itself is data and insights, okay? And I bang on about this all the time. Most people roll their eyes and it gets boring for most. But data and insights equals power. Okay. On the
Mhm.
front end, from the lead generation point of view, data and insight into your market is one of your most invaluable assets. Okay. Especially if you're planning an exit in the future, data and insights is where it's at. And then inside of this train chapter as well, the data and the insights that you'll get from your market in terms of where people are, the potency and the accuracy of your trainings. Again, back to the confidence conversation that we just had, and that ability then to enhance your curriculum, course correct for people going through the
Yeah.
data and the what I would call instructor insight. The instructors are going to have so much insight into the people that are going through the program. So that's
Yeah.
kind of wrapping up the training piece. Is there any other pieces there that you thought we would have jumped into, but I
No,
think
I think that
oh,
really covers
yeah.
that piece for sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then moving on then to the fifth piece. So this is actually the certification piece where people get, they get their certification, they get their rubber stamp. And my favorite piece here is this integrity piece that we talked about a little bit
Yeah.
earlier, where we have a final certification diagnostic. This is almost like, if depends if you did a degree or a master's or whatever, or a PhD and you did your Viva. This is like your very, very last big kind of final exams where you go through your final diagnostic, which basically allows you then to get said certification. And the other place then we can use it there is for almost like red flag systems. So somebody is coming to, and this is for the certification owner, we can actually build audiences into these diagnostics where then if over time as you start to see the people who don't do that well after they go out of the program, you're going to start to notice trends in their data and the insights that you get over time. And then you can actually build these audiences of what we call red flag systems that highlight to you this person, even though they might have passed, they might have scraped over the line and gotten their certification. It's highly likely, based on all of the data that we have on this individual, that they're not going to do that well out there in the big bad world.
Yeah.
And then you can create continuity programs, follow-up programs, etc., to support people who maybe fall into that red flag category. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even just the assessment of, like, how do they pass their certification test
Mm-hmm.
ultimately? Like, there's so much to that. There's various approaches and various ways to look at that. But I think you and I had talked about this at one point. Like, I'm not a fan of I call that like a rubber stamp certification. Like, oh, hey, you came in, you paid, now you're certified.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like, do they know? How do they know that they know what they know?
Yeah.
Let alone, they're going out in the world and you don't even know what's going on with them. But that was an interesting one for us over time too, to get really purposeful with in the way that we assess people during that testing. process.
Mhm.
Because you can have it, there can be like almost a surfacey version of it, like, hey, here's a
Yeah.
multiple choice test, and there you go,
Yeah,
kind
so
of thing.
to me, it's almost there's
Versus,
layers in there, case studies. There's like,
exactly. Yeah.
free text fields where they actually have to answer questions, not just guess stuff. Like
Yeah.
those can actually be really, really, really.
Well, and in our case too, we do we have like they do what we call certification week. So they actually work on and deliver projects throughout that week.
Yeah.
And they're graded very much on a rubric basis, right? Like basically a diagnostic assessment in that sense, where
Yeah.
it's very much like we are looking for this, and that.
Yeah.
And depending what they have, they pass or they redo or whatever it is. But
Absolutely.
that's such an essential piece to be taking, this whole assessment of how do they pass and become certified is so important to be purposeful and
Yes.
strategic with it.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then moving on to the seventh and final piece, then, of where to use these diagnostic assessments in your certification business. The one of the final pieces here is the exit diagnostic, and often, one of the beauties of running a business is the opportunity for continuing recurring income on a monthly basis. And if you
Mhm.
think of, like, if your certification ends at your certification, A, you're leaving a whole lot of revenue on the table, but B, you're basically opening the door, chucking your people out and saying, good luck. I hope that works out for you. Okay. So what you can actually use a diagnostic here is to almost bring them through an offboarding process and then let them know and see what is next for them. And then again, based on the tiers or categorizations and things like that, you can actually then make continuity offers to all of these people who have just been through your certification. They
Yeah.
will probably stay with you for years and years to come, providing you're giving them the value and the follow up services that they need and want. That is going to allow you to, like, supercharge the revenue, the long term revenue from every
Yeah.
single lead that your diagnostic brings into the business in the first place. And then, so that's kind of one piece, and then the tailored next steps for them. And then our absolute favorite of all is whenever people come out with a certification, and it's one of the things that almost cracks me up about the life coaching industry. And they bring in all of these poor, unsuspecting souls. And it's like, get your life coach certification. And then there's a gajillion people spat out onto the internet every single year with their
Mhm.
life coaching certification in hand and not a Scooby Doo how to even remotely find a client. Okay, never mind
Oh,
sign a
yeah.
client, never mind anything. They
Yeah.
literally know how to coach the person, but they don't have any skill set in any of the other critically important pieces. Okay, and this is
Wow.
where the diagnostic comes in to a world of its own for the certification owner, because
Yeah.
can you imagine the power of having a sales conversation with your potential certification student, and you're able to show them that they are going to have their very own white labeled lead generation machine on the front
Mhm.
end of
Mhm.
their business when they become certified. They are going to have a proven diagnostic assessment to bring in all of their leads into their company and the sales diagnostic. So if you think about everything we've just talked about there in stages 1 through 7A, everything there, being able to position, build it all for your own company, but then be able to position that to your certification students to let them know that they can also plug all of that into their business. And then they're not sitting there trying to scrabble around, posting on Facebook, trying to find a client for this amazing certification that they have. They
Yeah.
have the proven systems to generate the leads, to make the sales, to actually deliver on their services and onboard and offboard clients in exactly the same way.
Yeah, and that really fits into that concept that I talked about earlier of like their success is your success. Because if people are coming out of your certification and they aren't able to be successful with it, then was it really a successful journey?
But
Not
yes,
necessarily,
and your
right?
certification is going to become a one-hit wonder because
Exactly.
you're going to have one
Yeah.
cohort through it. then word's going to get out that, everybody that went through that, well, they never got a client, or they never were able to do, what they set out to do. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
and then it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in the downward spiral.
And there's even something I think really important overall about the assessment, because I know you and I have talked about this, of course, AJ, our friend AJ Harper, we've talked about this, and I've talked about this with her in relation to books. It's like, anytime I see a book, I think you need a certification. Where's the certification that goes with that book? Anytime somebody has a great diagnostic assessment, it's also like, hey, where's the certification that goes with that? Because there's something so powerful, like just going back to that very first piece that you talked about and shared. It's like that can become like what your certification can get built off of. Because I'll say this with all the love in my heart too, right? Like, people are the most unreliable piece of this whole thing. You can train someone on your methodology, you can train someone on your IP, your systems, your way of doing things, etc. But we are all people, and we're all going to bring who we are to the mix.
To the journey. Yes.
And that's fine. Right. But that's also part of the risk of certification. I mean, the number one question I get from people about certification is like, what if I certify someone and they suck? It's like, there's various ways to mitigate that. There's lots of things to consider, but that's a very real consideration. And when you can build a certification around an assessment, that's like, so everybody is using it. Everybody is, it's kind of woven into the fabric. What it is they're getting. Then that also brings this layer of consistency to the mix with the certification program itself. It's not like, hey, everybody's out there kind of doing what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
For sure. It's like, no, everybody's out there using this tool as that initial lead gen, connection point, etc. All of that. There's some real value.
Yeah, and it's almost like, even alongside the personal brand angle, when people are certified, like, let's pretend people were certified, in the Maeve Ferguson method of building diagnostic assessments. Okay. Yeah. So there's a personal brand element there. So if somebody is delivering my service and certified in my service over in Australia versus here versus Canada versus wherever, we want there to be, it has to feel like there's continuity there. It's like everything looks and feels as though it's part of the same brand. And as you say, then that book piece, this is where, like, the Venn diagram, just these three pieces, having your IP inside the book, having the certification, and then having that diagnostic assessment, you have the ultimate certification flywheel.
Yeah, and the ultimate, like, the ultimate model and such at large, like, that serves us as business owners, but of course serves all the people that we are, that we're supporting, and they're out in the world doing their great work and so on. Like, it's such a ripple effect model that way. And it's not a let me cross my fingers and hope to do a good job.
Hope that's yes, I love it. I love it. Right. So we have the 9 steps to create your own certification. Okay. So Tina has kindly offered that. So what we'll do is, let me see, the best way to do it is, I have the link here, but I think what I will do is I'll try and put it into the chat here. Yeah. I can post it to some channels. It'll be there on Facebook and YouTube, apparently. We will check all of the channels afterwards and make sure that is there for you. And there's a couple of things that you can do if you want to come into my world and learn a little bit more about diagnostic assessments. You can either take our impact score assessment, which, surprise, is a diagnostic assessment. Just go to impactscoreassessment.com, or if you would like to kind of bunny hop over that stage and just come straight in and have a conversation with me, just go to maeveferguson.com/application. And again, we will drop all of those links for you in the couple of comments down below these videos. And if you're watching the replay, those links will already be there for you. So thank you so much, Tina, for spending this time with me. I really enjoyed the conversation. My brain, this is not good because it's like 10:30 at night, and my brain like, so many ideas. I could do this, and then I go now and start building something. So I'd have to switch the brain off, and I'll look at that in the morning. But really enjoyed the conversation, and thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise. Awesome. Thanks, Maeve. Thanks, everybody.